Miguel Ortega had never aspired to scrub floors for a living, but the overnight shift at Helixian Genetics paid enough to cover his mother's nursing home and left him alone with his thoughts. Most nights were monotonous. The whir of incubators, the soft clicks of freezers logging temperatures, and the steady swipe splash of his mop across immaculate tiles. Scientists filled the building by day, puzzling over genomes, tinkering with destinies they would never live to see. By 11 p.m., Miguel was the sole warm body in a place built to rewrite life itself. The corridors of Level B were especially eerie. Between labs, wall-length windows looked down upon a subterranean greenhouse filled with bioluminescent plants. Blue-green light seeped upward and painted the ceiling like an aquarium. Miguel liked that glow. It reminded him of night fishing with his uncle on the Gulf Coast. Whenever he passed the window, he paused, just for a beat, to watch algae swirl beneath automated misters. That Thursday began routinely. He clocked in, nodded at Tyrell the security guard, and tried not to think about how tired he was. His mother had called earlier, confused, certain Miguel was still 8 years old and late for school. The conversation clung to him like soap residue. At 1:17 a.m., he rolled an orange mop bucket down Corridor 4B, a wing reserved for proprietary cellular vectors. A yellow sign next to the keypad warned, "Unauthorized access prohibited." Miguel's badge only opened the cleaning closet nearby. Company policy required him to mop outside each secure lab twice a week and polish the stainless steel door plates until he could see his own face. He was filling the bucket from a janitor's sink when someone startled him. Dr. Renee Chowdhury, Helixion's principal investigator, stepped from Lab 12 in a lab coat too crisp to have seen much splatter. She moved like someone with a metronome in her head. "Evening, Dr. Casey," Miguel said. She blinked as though recalibrating to recognize the staffer orbiting her world. "Evening," she answered. Then, distracted, "Do watch for residue. We're handling volatile nucleases tonight." She drifted away before he could reply. The lab door hissed shut, and a red light at the handle brightened. Miguel exhaled and dumped lemon-scented disinfectant into the bucket. The detergent foamed, pale blue tendrils swirling inside 90-degree water. He did not see the small glass vial lodged behind a drain grate. Someone must have dropped it. When Miguel pushed the bucket toward Corridor 4B, the wheels rattled over the vial, cracking its seal. A single clear bead slid down the slope tiles and plopped into the mop water. Miguel didn't notice. He dunked the mop, squeezed the handle, and started at the far wall, working backward to avoid stepping on wet tile. The corridor lights on motion sensors ramped up ahead of him. All the while, the water in the bucket altered, its meniscus thickened, colors bending deeper than blue. After 2 passes, Miguel hauled the bucket to the midpoint, bracing the wheels against a rubber stopper. He liked how glossy the floor became, showing him a stretched silhouette. It almost made the grunt work romantic, especially under the sea-green glow filtering from downstairs. But something felt off. His reflection wasn't obeying him. Miguel lifted a sneaker to pivot. The mirror foot stayed planted. Then, with a delicate ripple, it sauntered forward as though testing new land. The reflected. Miguel's same black hoodie and Helixion badge kept mopping. Except he paused every so often to massage his wrist like it hurt. The real Miguel's wrist was fine. He squeezed his eyes shut and opened them. Still, the floor held a different present. Maybe the fluorescents were flickering. Maybe he was overtired. He knelt, touched the tile. Wet but not slippery. The reflected version knelt too, but his mop lay abandoned. In the glowing greenhouse light, that Miguel's hoodie bore a silver logo Miguel didn't recognize. Suddenly footsteps sounded behind him. His actual reflection vanished in concentric waves as Tyrell rounded the corner, humming an R&B riff. "What's up, Mike?" the guard said, nodding at the bucket like a fellow craftsman might admire another's tools. Miguel forced a shrug. Long night. Tyrell's boots left dark ovals on the damp surface. Instantly, the glossy patch bloomed into an image Miguel could only describe later as a tiny IMAX screen. Where a footprint landed, he saw a storefront Miguel had never visited. Tyrell leaned on a counter, hair streaked gray, laughing with a toddler balanced on his shoulders. A woman nearby wore a postal uniform. In the bright smile lines, Miguel recognized Tyrell's ex-wife, the one he still pined for on smoke breaks. But Tyrell saw none of it. He stepped onward, and the vision burst into droplets. Miguel's pulse stuttered. He waited until the guard's footsteps echoed up the stairwell, then ensconced himself behind the cleaning cart like a gambler shielding cards. He dragged one palm along the wet floor, smearing Tyrell's last print. The water settled to an ordinary shine. "Calm down," he whispered. "You're hallucinating." Still, he dipped a finger into the bucket. The water shimmered, reflecting the ceiling, but also faintly a city skyline Miguel couldn't place. Airships drifted above spirals of glass. Neon characters he couldn't read floated across the bucket's curved interior like koi fish. The alternative reflection possessed a strange parallax, as though the mop water had depth far beyond its 8-inch diameter. He yanked his hand back, knocking the mop pole. Water sloshed onto his shoes. The contact snapped Miguel into action. He hurried to finish the corridor, eyes averted from the floor's revelations, and moved on. Yet curiosity gnawed. After 20 minutes, he wheeled the cart into the janitor's lounge, a room the size of a jail cell, furnished with a microwave and a broken recliner. He set the bucket on a metal tray table and turned off the overhead light. Only the emergency bulb glowed, the green kind rated to burn for 30 years. Then Miguel lifted his hand lamp and focused the beam on the water's surface. Immediately, images unfurled with crisp resolution. His elderly mother sat on a porch surrounded by blooming crepe myrtles, humming Spanish hymns, alert and content. Miguel knew the tune. She had sung it to lull him to sleep after his father's disappearance. In a reflection, Miguel himself approached, wearing scrubs and a badge that read Ortega RN. Miguel slumped onto the tray table. He had always wanted to become a nurse, but quit community college when the bills piled up. The mop water was showing a future where he'd chosen differently. The picture disintegrated when he leaned closer, replaced by swirling foam. He realized footprints mattered. Whoever's waterlogged soles first touched a given area lured their future into view. Knee prints, thumb prints. It probably read any contact, like a biometric sensor written in evaporation. That thought introduced a darker corollary. He could witness the plans of others. Scientists, executives, anyone. 3 o'clock neared and his chore list remained daunting, but obsession can outrank diligence. Miguel rolled the cart back to corridor 4B and waited. He practiced stepping into tiny puddles, watching different possibilities spool out and fade. He saw himself winning a scratch-off ticket or arguing with an orderly outside a psychiatric ward. Outcomes braided and unbraided like threads made of light. He needed a control subject, someone with high stakes, someone whose choices might ripple across the globe. Dr. Chowdhury. Miguel positioned himself outside Lab 12 and mopped a wide oval, careful not to tread on the sheen. Then he retreated several yards, crouched behind a water fountain, and watched. His heart hammered so loud he feared the motion sensors might detect it. At 3:27 a.m. the lab lock buzzed. Dr. Chowdhury emerged, tapping on a tablet. She didn't notice the wet floor until she stepped directly into its center, one patent leather loafer smacking water. She winced, glanced around, and continued toward the elevator. The moment her footprint met the tile, the liquid mirror erupted. Miguel saw a conference hall filled with rows of dignitaries. Flags he didn't know hung behind a podium bearing Halexian's Helix logo. Dr. Chowdhury stood there, older, hair silver at the temples, delivering a keynote. Her slides showcased DNA strands shaped like infinity symbols. Applause thundered. Then a second image overlaid the first. News helidrones hovering above a mass quarantine zone, soldiers in hazmat suits ushering people toward tents. A chyron scrolled, CRISPR B7 pathogenicity confirmed global advisory. He glimpsed silhouettes on stretchers, bodies small as punctuation. The applause and the panic overlapped like a discordant duet, and Miguel's stomach twisted. He didn't understand genetics, but he recognized hubris. Whatever Dr. Chowdhury was incubating might blossom into miracle or catastrophe. The pictures blurred, and the sheen resumed its plain reflection. Miguel scooted back, accidentally colliding with the fountain. Water gurgled. Dr. Chowdhury looked over her shoulder. Miguel pretended to adjust the nozzle. "Mr. Ortega, is everything all right?" she called. Miguel forced a grin. "All good, ma'am. Just cleaning." She stared a moment longer, then boarded the elevator. As soon as the door sealed, Miguel pressed both palms against his face. He felt an urge as primitive as flight or fight. Warn somebody, anybody. But who would trust a janitor claiming prophetic mop water? Security would call him unstable, maybe test him for narcotics. Helixion valued order above all. Disruptors vanished like bacterial contaminants in an autoclave. Yet allowing the research to proceed blindly seemed worse. He swabbed Dr. Chowdhury's footprints dry as though erasing evidence. In the bucket, her double image resurfaced for a flash applause, tense, then vanished under soap suds. An idea germinated. If the water showed only possible futures, not fixed ones, maybe those visions could be nudged. Maybe the difference between Nobel epiphany and viral nightmare hinged on a single altered step. Science loved experiments. Miguel would run one. First, he needed more of whatever reagent had leaked. He rolled the cart to the drain where his wheels had crushed the vial. Glass shards sparkled like dragon scales. Miguel fished one out with tweezers and read the label. Embryolucidin 3X. On the back, dispose under ultraviolet sterilizer, unstable in aqueous solution. Too late, he thought, glancing at the bucket. He set the shard in his pocket, already mapping a gambit. If he could preview choices, maybe he could orchestrate outcomes. He'd be the lab's unseen conductor. Miguel's watch ticked toward 4. O'clock Ayim. Day shift crews began trickling in at 6. Time felt narrow. He needed Dr. Chowdhury to step again, this time on a wet patch containing prints from someone whose empathy outweighed ambition. Tyrell. Miguel hurried to the security station. The guard was updating log sheets. "Hi man, can you help me move a heavy nitrogen tank? I'm worried it'll tip." Tyrell sighed theatrically but followed. In corridor 4B, Miguel had already mopped a fresh rectangle. He guided Tyrell across, making sure the man's boots pressed deep into the sheen. When Tyrell reached the imaginary tank, he frowned. "Bro, you said..." "Sorry," Miguel blurted. "Got it sorted." Then he gestured at the still wet floor. "Mind waiting? I don't want you slipping." Tyrell chuckled. "You're a weird dude, Mike." He leaned against the wall, scrolling his phone. Now for the maestro stroke. Lure Dr. Chowdhury onto the same canvas. Miguel sprinted to the elevator call button, smudging it with fetid water from his bucket. A ping announced its arrival. He jabbed Lab 12's intercom. "Dr. C, janitorial here," he said, imitating the measured cadence she respected. "There's an issue with biohazard signage near your door. Management wants you to verify." He released the button, chest heaving. A pause. Then, "I'll be right out." Miguel retreated, praying she'd follow the same path. As the lab door slid open, Dr. Chowdhury emerged, eyes tight with annoyance. To his relief, she stepped directly into Tyrell's damp footprints. Miguel held his breath. The water brightened like backlit glass. A montage unfolded. Scientists in community hospitals distributing gene-edited antigens. Children receiving nasal sprays that eradicated congenital diseases. Tyrell's granddaughter, the toddler from before, Miguel realized, playing on a beach free of warning signs about bacterial blooms. Dr. Chowdhury herself appeared, older but at peace, chatting with Miguel, who wore a visitor's pass, reading Ortega Community Health Liaison. No refugee camps, no soldiers. The vision conveyed hope, scaled planetary. Miguel almost wept. He glanced at Tyrell. The guard tapped an earbud, oblivious to the unfolding miracle at his feet. Dr. Chowdhury likewise saw nothing but floor wax. The universe, it seemed, had reserved these previews solely for the man wielding the mop. As images dissolved, Miguel faced a new dilemma. Was this glimpse a guarantee or only a possibility? Could one set of overlapping footprints rewrite fate? Or had he misinterpreted random chemistry as cosmic intention? Doubt needled him until sunrise, when the world's ordinary busyness began. Rolling lab carts, caffeine breath, elevator dings. He stashed the bucket in the lounge, heart tugging between wonder and paranoia. Eventually he punched out, still wearing gloves. Sleep evaded him all day. By dusk, he decided on a larger trial. He couldn't trust anecdotes. He required data. He copied the footage from Corridor 4B's security camera onto a thumb drive. While the camera would not capture the water's visions, it would display the sequence of footsteps he orchestrated. If tomorrow's floor visions differed, he could attribute change to his interference. Friday night, he arrived armed with grief sandwiches and notepads. At 12:40, IME spilled a deliberate line of luminescent mop water across the corridor, then coaxed 3 subjects across it. Dr. Patterson, gentle postdoc always feeding stray cats. Mr. Lin, corporate VP whose jokes about layoffs grated Miguel, and himself. He logged the order, then knelt to watch. The liquid screen showed a city council announcing Helexion's bankruptcy under massive lawsuits. A second later, the scene reblended into Dr. Patterson donating plasmids to open-source databases while patents dissolved. A third beat revealed Miguel wearing handcuffs beside a smoldering server rack. The pictures flickered faster, mismatching like an over-edited trailer. Miguel's head spun. Too many variables, no control. He lacked the quantitative discipline scientists wielded. He was, ultimately, a man with a mop. A chilling possibility slid into focus. Perhaps the water reflected all futures, not choosing among them, but simply echoing the branching tree at every split. If so, there might be no way to steer toward paradise except through infinite trial, each course pruned by decisions minute as shoe treads. He felt infinitesimal, a dust mote bossing around galaxies. A chime startled him. Mr. Lin had returned, coffee in hand. He spied the janitor crouched over a shimmering film and smirked. "Careful, Ortega. That stuff eat through rubber?" Miguel stood. "Just cleaning." Lin's brow furrowed at the glowing lines. "Looks messy. Let me help you stay busy." He stepped deliberately into the puddle, then tracked prints around like a child in new snow. A rapid slideshow detonated in the water. Corporate jets, riot police, starving villages. Miguel alone in a dim cell, reading letters addressed "Return to Sender." "No," Miguel vowed. He snatched the bucket and tipped it, dousing Lin's prints so violently that water lashed the VP's slacks. "Hey," Lin barked. "Sorry, sir. Slip hazard." Lin cursed and stalked off, shoes squeaking. Miguel knelt to examine the new spread. The surface is muddied, swirl upon swirl, no images coalescing. The reagent must have diluted beyond threshold. In frustration, he punched the floor, splashing his jacket. Then he noticed the bucket was nearly empty. The strange water was draining somewhere through cracks, more likely evaporating into chemical ghosts. He remembered the vial's warning, unstable in aqueous solution. If the property decayed, he might never witness those futures again. Hope, disaster, every branch already fading. What right had he to anchor destiny on glimpses he scarcely comprehended? The next night, the mop water behaved like ordinary water. No matter how he mixed cleaners, no matter how he positioned footprints, the floor reflected only fluorescent tubes and Miguel's weary face. He scavenged the entire drain system for leftover shards, but maintenance had replaced the grate. Level B resumed its clinical calm, the greenhouse glow no longer mystical, but simply cool lighting meant to soothe. A week passed, then 2. Miguel wondered whether he had dreamt it all, perhaps nodding off while buffing floors. Yet Tyrell invited him to a barbecue, saying he and his ex-wife were trying again. Dr. Chowdhury began leaving the lab earlier, citing community outreach meetings at a free clinic. And in the cafeteria one morning, Miguel overheard Mr. Lin reprimanded for unauthorized budget cuts. The CFO said layoffs were off the table, small shifts, nothing headline splashed, but maybe the kinds of nudges a mop-wielding butterfly could cause. One late shift, Dr. Chowdhury found Miguel beside the greenhouse window, watching the algae swirl. "You work too hard," she said softly. He shrugged. "Floors don't clean themselves." "I've been meaning to ask," she continued, "whether you'd consider joining our facilities council. We want input from every department on safety protocols. Miguel squinted, unsure if it was a hand-picked olive branch or coincidence. I'm just janitorial, doctor. That's precisely why, she replied. Sometimes the person closest to the ground sees things the rest of us miss. Her words rippled through him as profound as any vision. Miguel imagined his mother on that sunny porch, the crepe myrtles waving. Perhaps the future wasn't a fixed picture inside luminous water. Perhaps it was perpetually wet tile, always awaiting the next set of footprints to define its shimmer. He extended a gloved hand. Count me in. Dr. Chowdhury smiled and clasped it. Their reflections merged on the glass, uncertain yet hopeful, shifting with the gentle pulse of artificial tides below. Miguel returned to his cart and wrung them off. The water dripped, clear as window panes, reflecting only present moments. He guided the mop across virgin tile, leaving behind a subtle gloss. It looked, to ordinary eyes, like any other floor until someone stepped forward and possibility found a surface to bloom upon.